Welcome to Art Books on Tape. This week we're talking to Bert. Who are we
Al
talking to?
Satterwhite.
Al Satterwhite. We're talking about Hunter S. Thompson, Muhammad Ali, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Pretty crazy.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. Stay tuned.
Yeah, you gotta get in there, Bert.
This isn't helping my lounge situation.
Well, I mean, maybe you shouldn't be in a full recline.
I have to be.
I think you could possibly lay on the floor, and then you could actually have it there too. You know, spin it around. I mean, I'll put my feet up.
Fine, I'll sit up. Okay, I'm here.
How's it going, Al? Thanks for joining us.
Are we recording already?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh,
It's
cool.
good. Fine.
Thank you for joining us.
Talk right into them.
Right in like this close.
There you go.
Oh, that's good.
Whoa. Whoa. So, hi. How's it going, Al?
It's going well.
Good. I'm just getting everything tightened up here.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for bringing this beautiful book, which I haven't really opened yet, which I'm excited to open right now.
Well, I still have a few more for sale.
Awesome. And that link will definitely be on the site.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, give us the lowdown on this. What are we looking at right here?
Well, you're looking at a book called The Cozumel Diary, which basically is what I call Adventures with Hunter Thompson, who was we were friends back in the early 70s. I used to live in Florida, and he would come down to Miami to cover Nixon, and so he'd give me a call, and we'd go hang out. I met him originally, I believe it was in '68, when Nixon was accepting the nomination. Hunter and I were standing under the podium on the floor, and he was, being Hunter, a strange-looking guy with a martini or some drink in his hand, which of course is totally illegal on the floor, but who cared? So we got to talking, and then after that it was kind of like he'd give me a call, we get together. So when the Playboy interview came up in '74, he asked Playboy, or insisted that Playboy hire me to come down and shoot him. So I went down there for, I think it was a 3-day assignment, and after 3 days, I said, well, I'm ready to leave. And he went, no, don't leave, stay around. I said, well, it's a 3-day assignment. He said, no, I'll tell him it's a problem, stick around. So I hung around a few more days.
That's awesome. That is amazing. And what kind of, tell us about some of the antics that happened here that we're looking at.
Well, it's, when you're with Hunter, you never know what's going to happen. Basically, he would get up around 11 o'clock and start his day with a couple of Bloody Marys and a couple of beers.
Right.
And Hunter, he lived in Aspen, and it was wintertime. I think it was March when we did the interview. So he wanted to get out of the snow, which is why he picked Cozumel, a little island off Yucatan in the Caribbean. So it's hot, and he's sitting out there sometimes we're in a seawall, sometimes we're around the pool, different places. And Hunter's drinking and Hunter's sweating, and the writer and he are talking. I'm basically concentrating on taking photographs. So we do that for a couple hours, and then we drive into town, which wasn't far. There's only one town in Cozumel, one little city, a little port, and hang out at Pepe's the rest of the day, drinking and eating and drinking and more drinking until, we went back to the hotel, or the writer would go back to the hotel early after dinner, and then I would sort of have to babysit Hunter because there wasn't anything else. There wasn't any other entertainment on the island. So
Sure.
Hunter and I would go from bar to bar, basically closing them.
And was he known on the island, or was this like his first time there?
This was. He had, I think, both of his Fear and Loathing books were out, but people didn't really know who he was or what he looked like.
Sure.
So he had total freedom. He could wander around. He was a strange-looking guy and talk to you, and you didn't know who you were talking to.
So you saw him in, kind of almost his pure exploration mode.
Oh, it was a great time.
Of a new environment and a new place, a little
Yeah.
beach town, if you will.
Well, he'd been there before. We'd both been there before.
Okay.
We both had this idea at different times. He talked Playboy into sending him down there. They had an annual sailfish contest that Stryker Yachts put on, and Hunter got wind of it and thought, "Wow, this will be great." You know,
Who's Stryker Yachts?
well, there used to be a company in Florida that built 2-size aluminum hulled yachts.
Okay.
Really, they were really great. They're no longer in business anymore.
So there's this crazy sailfish competition down there.
Well, yeah, and you know, the rich guys would basically have their captains take the boats down there, and then he'd fly in and fish. And you know, we're thinking Hemingway-esque.
Yeah.
So I had been doing some advertising for him. So I called the PR guy and I said, "Hey, this is going to be great. You know, let me go down there." And they said, "Okay, fine. We'll pay your way." Well, we get down there, and these guys aren't Hemingway. They're like out fishing, back in port at 5 o'clock, eat dinner, go to bed.
Yeah.
It's like no drinking, no partying.
You thought you were going to be raging with a bunch of rich people
So-
and having these crazy interactions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there wasn't one interesting person among them.
Yeah.
So Hunter and I were the only entertainment on the island.
That's crazy. So what kind of things were you guys drawn to doing there? I mean, other than just closing down bars? Or was that pretty much all there was to
That
do?
was pretty much all there was to do.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
I mean, Hunter, I don't know what Hunter did in the daytime. For all I know, he just hung out at the pool. I went out on the boats, you know, and it was kind of a leave at 7 and come back at 4:30 or 5. Because I was trying to take pictures of them actually fishing.
Sure. Of taking pictures of these guys fishing?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple of good shots out of it, but it
Sure.
was certainly nothing like what I pre-visualized.
Yeah, it was
Going
the
on.
the fantasy that yeah, and how I mean like that probably happens a lot where you have this fantasy of something and then I mean as a photographer and you go out there and you're just like wow that wasn't really what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and sometimes it'd be even better.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be
of course.
wilder
Sure.
than you could even think of. But, you know, you'd read a paragraph or a snippet or something in a magazine or a newspaper, and you'd have an idea, and you'd sort of follow up on it. In those days, it was just a matter of, because I used to work for all the magazines, you just call New York and say, "Hey, there's this going on," and they give you an assignment. And, you know, we flew all over the place.
And
Those-
social media ruined all that. Thank you very much. No, I'm joking.
Well, not only social media, but digital cameras.
Sure,
Digital is
sure.
kind of like a two-edged sword. I love digital. I only shoot digital. When they quit making Kodachrome, I switched over.
Really?
But the cameras are so good nowadays with the built-in meters and everything that almost anybody, if you shoot enough pictures, can get something good. A lot of them don't really know anything about composition or
At
how to
all.
repeat what they got. But yeah, it kind of ruined the whole thing. And then the expenses were outrageous, and magazines lost all their advertising, and you know people stopped buying magazines, and you know where that went.
But and then I guess now really kind of with this book, it's kind of in that new frontier. If you did this with a Kickstarter on your own, you kind of like stepped out of the traditional publishing and really went directly to a demographic of people and reached out to a demographic of people that you knew would want this. I mean, that's kind of I think that's you know you've continued to make it work and make it
Well,
happen.
it was it was actually two things going on. One, I've already done a couple of ebooks, and I decided I would do another one. But and you still have to design them and lay them out and do all that. But you know, once I sort of got halfway into it, I thought, well, I love print so much that I'm going to have to do a print book. So publishers aren't interested. I don't know what publishers are interested in anymore. So I couldn't get any kind of funding or interest in that plane. So I went to Kickstarter, and it was wildly successful. I had to do a minimum print run of about 1,000 books, and I pre-sold, I think, about 500.
Amazing.
That's great.
So I still have about 425 left.
Sure.
That's awesome.
I
Well,
really-
hopefully people on this show we can buy some of those.
Well, the thing is, the book's pretty unique because nobody else was there. It's an interesting time period. When I was in Cozumel, all I did was photograph Hunter. When we were in Florida, I never carried a camera, which I wish I had because we were basically
wow.
just friends. So I go down to Miami, or he'd come up to Palm Beach, and you know we do what we did. But I never took one picture.
Crazy. Too
So
busy, too busy raging.
The book has stories about our adventures in Florida, and there's
Yeah.
quite a few of them. but there are no pictures. The
Sure.
only pictures, and there's about, I think, 98 photos in the book, are all from Cozumel.
What I mean, like, what kind of things would you guys do in Florida? I mean, what's a
Well, various things. A lot of it involves drinking and drugs.
I mean, was there like a specific types of bars that you guys would go to specifically? I mean, like certain experiences. I mean,
This was Miami in the 70s, early 70s?
Yeah.
oh, Bert is from Miami.
I am from Miami, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
I wasn't-
71, 72,
Oh, okay.
73, that era.
I wasn't around.
No
Or,
twinkle,
I was too young.
no twinkles. You were
No.
you were hanging out with your pet pig.
Wait,
Well, Hunter would call up sometime and say, I'm coming to Miami. Can you get me a convertible? Because evidently he didn't know how to get
To
the rental companies to give him a convertible. So I guess because I did a lot of travel and rented a lot of cars, I don't know, it wasn't a big deal. I
Sure.
used to call him and say, hey, I got a guy coming in here, hold a convertible.
Yeah.
So after he'd been in Miami for 2 or 3 days doing whatever he was doing for Rolling Stone, he'd call me up and say, come on down, And he always stayed in one hotel out on the Biscayne, Key Biscayne, and I knew where he would be. He wasn't going to be in his room. He'd be out by the pool. And there would usually be a full table of empty glasses and a bag of grapefruits, because he loved to take fresh grapefruits, squeeze them, and mix them with vodka. So one time I met him down there, and we chatted briefly by the pool, and he says, come on, let's go. We were going to drive up to a friend of mine's because he needed to score some speed to stay awake, because as usual he was on deadline and pushed everything to the last minute, to the absolute end. So he went back to his room and he starts telling me this story. He said, well, the other day I had trouble with my phone. So basically he just beat it to death and broke it. So he's headed down the hallway to complain to the front desk why his phone won't work. And several rooms down, doors open. So he goes, aha, phone. So he goes in and figures he'll just use the phone in that room. It had a red phone with a White House emblem on it.
Oh wow.
It was a Secret Service room.
Wow.
So the Secret Service stayed there when Nixon was, because Nixon had a house on Key Biscayne. So Hunter, being Hunter and being the White House correspondent, has to have that little round thing in the middle of the phone, and they were dial phones in those days. So he can't figure out how to get it off, so he rips the phone out of the wall and takes it.
Yeah. Whole phone.
And I'm going, Hunter, I can't believe this. So we go to his car. He opens the trunk and hands me the phone. And I popped the thing out and went, here. And he said, you want the phone? I went, no, you keep it.
Yeah.
So then we get in the car and we're pulling out, puts the top down, and he said, see that car over there? He's following us. And I'm going, Hunter, you're too paranoid. He says, no, he'll follow us out of the parking lot. He'll make a right-hand turn and then make a left-hand turn. And I went, Hunter. And that's what the guy does.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
But if somebody was following us, they were doing a good job, or we didn't care, I don't know what happened. But,
Sure.
we went on about our business. But, I mean, that was sort of typical Hunter kind of adventure.
that's just a day in Hunter life.
Yeah, just, like the first hour.
Yeah. That's just
As
breakfast.
we're doing 70 miles an hour down the highway or the freeway, I-4, or not I-4, I forget what it is. I've been out of Florida so long, with a bag of ice and an open bottle of wild turkey, which you shouldn't be doing.
I'm listening though.
Sorry.
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy but fun. I mean, he was. Hunter was always interesting. I mean, I always had a good time with him. I never had a bad. I never had any problems except I'd have to drag him out of places sometimes. I mean, once when we were in Cozumel doing the interview, we went out on what started, or I guess where he got the name, I don't know, but we went out on the Great Shark Hunt. So we went out on a boat that Hunter chartered, and he had Craig, the writer, Craig Vetter came with us, and Sandy, his wife at the time, and his son, who was, I think, like 10. And we went out, they chummed the water, got dark, got boring. His son and I went down below deck, jumped into bunks, and went to sleep. And several hours later, it's chugga, chugga, chugga coming back into the little harbor. And Hunter is furious because they haven't even seen a shark. So he figures he's been had. So
Sure.
he's raging and, talking about how he's going to get even. And the guy he rented the boat from I think he owned like a little disco on the island.
Sure.
And it was inland, and it was for locals only kind of deal. So his plot is he's going over there and seek redress. And Craig and I are talking, and we're going, this isn't good.
It's not the place you want
We're
to go.
going to get killed
Yeah.
or disappeared or something. So we came up with our own little plan. So we follow Hunter, and Craig gets Hunter to promise that he won't get nuts and he won't say crazy stuff,
Sure.
which lasts all of 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I was
Of
about to
course,
say. Yeah.
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. Let's just go do this.
We're in the back. Hunter finds the owner, and he just starts beating on him word-wise. And it's not looking real good. So Craig is pulling Hunter towards the door, and I have my camera with me. So I'm basically just popping the flash like I'm taking pictures.
Sure.
Bang, 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 bang. We get him out of the door, throw him in the car, and race off. And it's kind of like, whew.
All because there were no sharks.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Sharks.
Sharks. So what he just wanted to see a shark and just wanted to see that raw intensity.
I don't know what he
and
wanted
just,
to do. He just had this idea he wanted to go shark hunting. Maybe again it was that Hemingway thing with fighting a shark. Although I don't know if fighting a shark is the same as a sailfish, but
Probably not.
who knows?
No, very different. Sharks will bite you back.
Yeah.
Sailfishes have really small mouths, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
They
but
do.
they have a long point on the end which they can spear you with.
That's true.
Sure.
That's
The
true.
narwhal of fish.
What?
I said the narwhal of fish.
Oh, yeah. Narwhals.
Um,
So is the Kickstarter still up or no?
The one I used?
Mm-hmm.
No, you can put it up for a certain amount of days. I did it like over a year ago, probably 2
Oh,
years ago.
okay.
So I put it up for about 30 or 40 days.
So where do you sell the book out of now?
My website, galleries have it. A few galleries have it.
That's awesome.
It's on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
but only there's 2 versions of it. I had to order 1,000 books, but I did 800 numbered and signed. So 200 of those are clamshells, which is a clamshell with a book in it and 2 8x10 prints of Hunter. And that's like $500. So there's only like 45 of those left.
Mhm.
And then the other 600 are slipcase, which is what you have,
Mhm.
which are numbered and signed, but there's no photograph with them. And then there's 200 extra ones I had, and I just had them shrink wrap. And those are the ones that are on Amazon.
Gotcha.
So you get it, but it's not signed.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's $100, so it's more affordable because the slipcase is $150.
You don't market to the art market. You market to these general interests. You market to the people who are really into cars. You market to the people who are into Hunter S. Thompson. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Muhammad Ali or Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, which is also a huge market to market to. It's great. Like, I'd love to hear more about that and how you've kind of worked with those books.
Yeah, but again, I think the problem is you've got to have it affordable, and that's why I want a publisher because then I can get the price down to $60.
Yeah.
And $60 is an affordable book.
Yeah.
Over 100 is not,
Yeah.
unless you really love that subject matter or that book or whatever. I don't often buy books that expensive. I mean, I do every now and then, but mostly
Sure.
too much.
But that's why you got to add the print and all that kind of stuff to make it more valuable and to make it more precious. But then that adds costs.
yeah,
as well.
I mean, I have to make all this prints.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
And the Ali and the Schwarzenegger book you mentioned were actually done with a real publisher.
Mm-hmm.
I did it in, I think, 2008, 2009 it came out. And it's a huge book. I think it weighs about 5 pounds. The problem with that, I thought it was a cool idea. It's called Titans. And I thought it was a cool idea because, like, you can go anywhere in the world and name those two guys, and I think everybody knows who they are. Everybody. But when the book came out, the boxer people would go, well, what's this bodybuilder guy doing in the book?
Sure.
And the bodybuilder people, the same. It's like, what's with the boxer?
Yeah.
They couldn't separate it. And so my idea of marketing was not a good one. So, and not only that, but the publisher, and this is another problem, the publisher is an automotive publisher. And he wanted to move into mainstream other stuff. But the problem was he did no PR, he did no marketing, he did no advertising, and you can only find the book on his website, which is an automotive website.
Sure.
So I get enough money quarterly to maybe go to sushi bar and order two things.
Two things.
It's not what you call a lucrative deal.
Well, let's do some marketing for that book right now. Tell us about it. What is the book? What's the concept of it? I mean, it's those two guys.
Well,
anywhere you go.
It's Muhammad Ali in 1970 and 1971 when he was making his comeback after he had been locked out because of his issue of refusing the draft. And he was preparing for his first fight in, where was it, Georgia? I think it was in Georgia. And then the second fight, which he got knocked out, was in New York. So he was working out in Miami at the Fifth Street Gym, which no longer exists. And I had access because I had a lot of assignments for magazines. So I go down, like 2 or 3 days a week for several weeks, months while he was working out. And he was a great guy to hang around. He's a big guy, but he was not intimidating. He was just fun and cool. And then Arnold, when I moved to L.A. in 74, I think I did him in 75. He hadn't really gotten into movies, but he had won like 6 or 7 Mr. Olympias and all that stuff. So that was his market. And again, it was assignment. I think it was for a German magazine. I spent a couple of weeks with him. And he was really down-to-earth, cool, funny guy. We'd go to lunch. We'd go skeet shooting. We'd do all kinds of stuff. And spent a lot of time at the original Gold's Gym, which no longer exists. And so I shot a lot of mostly him working out and in the gym and with some of his friends and then around at home and some of his other places. And Ali was the same thing, mostly in the gym working out, but walking around Miami and in the limo and with some of his, not really friends, but, people around him, trainers and whatnot. Easy access, shoot anything you want. I was the only guy there. I mean, we were driving around the limo once with Ali, and he must have been looking for a house or something to buy. And this is in 1970 in Miami, so it's still pretty segregated, racial kind of thing. So we pull up to this house, and I'm sitting in the back facing backwards because I'm shooting Ali and the guy with him. So I didn't really see what they were doing. And he says, run up there and see what they want for that house. He had a for sale sign out front. And I looked at him and I went, why me? And he goes, because you're the only white guy in the car.
That's funny.
So I put down my cameras. I went up there, knocked on the door, I asked them what they wanted. And they're kind of looking around me saying, well, who's in the car? And
Who's in the limo, yeah.
Interested party, I got a price, went back, told them, and we went on our way. But, you don't really think of that stuff because I grew up in Florida. I didn't really think about the whole racial part of it. And a friend of mine, another photographer, Flip Schulke, who had done several books on Ali and shot him earlier, he was telling me stories where he would take Ali to, and this was before Ali got really well known or made much money, he would take Ali to, I think, Jordan Marsh, a local department store, to buy him some clothes. And they wouldn't let him try any of them on because he was black.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What?
And I mean, Flip was furious, but
Yeah.
there wasn't anything he could do about it. So it was kind of a different time. It was, it had good things and bad things, but you had great access. The photographer, you just had wonderful access.
Sure.
You didn't have to go through PR people.
Well, with that, that's what's so interesting is you must have an archive of so many of these assignments and so many of these things where you got to have these crazy little micro experiences all over the place. I mean, what are some of these things you wish you could turn into books that, maybe, that are on your kind of back burner of these like crazy experiences? Because that's what it seems like a lot of your books come from is like, this place, I have all these great things that I'm going to put together.
Well, again, it's trying to figure out what you could actually sell, because otherwise it's just like, ooh, look at me, I got another book on the shelf,
Yeah.
which I really don't need another book on the shelf
Sure.
unless I can make money off of it. But I'm taking all of I got all my rights back from the Titans book, and I'm going to do an Ali book because
Cool.
I think the work is really good, and
Yeah.
a lot of people have said they like it. So that's kind of on the back burner. I actually did a Kickstarter with it last year, and it just didn't work. It didn't make the minimum. And I had to raise my minimum because now I had to realize, okay, I have to make some money too.
Sure.
So
For the Ali book, you're saying?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna do that again maybe towards the end of the year. I still think it has viability, has legs. It just timing's not right yet.
So when you originally released that book, it had Ali and Schwarzenegger
Right.
in one book,
Right.
and it was called Titans.
Right. And
Gotcha.
there's I hired a guy to write bios.
Uh-huh.
I got a lot of quotes from both of them. So I did the layout. I laid it out so that the pictures sort of
Sure,
juxtaposed.
that's amazing.
So there'll be like an Ali and an Arnold for several pages, and then maybe a bunch with just Ali or just Arnold, and then some spreads,
Huh.
and then back to them juxtaposed, kind of doing similar stuff, even though they're in different sports. So for me, it kind of worked. I mean, I liked it.
It makes sense to me. I get it. I like it.
But
I like that idea of connecting those two guys. You know?
yeah, man, it just didn't.
I mean, I
fly.
get it. The public is just like, I want.
I know where you can buy like 500 of them
Okay.
for a really good
Cool.
price.
If you guys want to know, contact us. We'll let you know.
So anyway, I'm working on the Ali book.
So you're working on that
that'll be-
currently.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really actively doing a layout because I'm not going to have my designer do anything until I can pay him.
Sure,
course.
of course.
And I'm
of
not going to pay him until I actually have a deal somewhere.
Yeah.
But I have another book in play right now, which I started out calling it The South. And nobody likes that title, and it's the only thing I could think of. But I come up with a title I really like now called Southern Exposure, which is kind of a little looser, a little broader. And it's basically 1962 to 1972-ish, that same period again, when I was working for a newspaper. I was just out of high school. I was freelancing and then working for magazines. And I traveled all over the South, based out of Florida. And I would shoot a lot of stuff for assignments and shoot a lot of stuff for myself. On the days I wasn't working, I'd go out and shoot for what I wanted to do. And it's all black and white. It's all Tri-X. And I paid somebody to come in and curate and go through my files because I don't know how many rolls of black
course.
and white, but it's all organized. I spent a whole summer organizing it. He picked out about 900 frames, which I then scanned. And then I had to have them dust and scratch removal done because the negatives are 40, 50 years old, and Time Life Lab didn't always handle them the way they should have,
Sure.
so they have scratches and whatnot. So I got them all cleaned up. Then I digitally processed them, made them really good, and then I started layout. And I played, and this has been going on for like
And what are the
5
images
years.
of
People.
people?
They're kids, they're adults, they're
In the
workers.
South.
They're all in the South. They're like, I have snake handlers in Tennessee, which is part of an assignment, and a couple of guys outside of a little old church in the middle of nowhere in the country, and they're handling a rattlesnake. And guys working on roads, and guys working on airports, and
And these were just you being sent out on assignment,
well,
going out.
and my
Or
own
in between
assignment.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
This is
I
just
mean,
you shooting.
One day I wanted to go. I don't know what my modus was, but I went to this little town up in the middle of central northern Florida, and I hung out for a day. And it was kind of like, the couple old guys sitting on the porch of the store talking with a dog, and some kids across the street in a playground. And I hung out with them for a while and had some cool pictures of them and them interacting with the old guys. And now you look at the pictures and you think, wow, if I did that now, they'd arrest me. Because everybody's got a different mindset.
Sure.
But again, total access. So it's that kind of stuff. And it's everything. It's, New Orleans Mardi Gras, a couple of sailors leaning up against a hydrant.
Huh. And you're working on this now?
Yeah, well, I've done a huge layout. I've weighted them down to about 200 images just for what I'm doing. And I really liked what Robert Frank did with the Americans. I don't really always like his photos, but I loved his layout. He
Sure.
juxtaposed images.
Which creates a conversation about the images in the
and that's
society.
What, that's what I did. So
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time playing with images. So they're now juxtaposed.
Well, what's interesting too is it's like I feel like back then, but like the camera had a different weight, so to speak. When you
Sure.
would walk up to somebody and pull your camera out and say, "Can I take a picture?" It meant something completely different than somebody doing it now with a camera phone or some digital thing or something like that. I mean, could you feel that weight in terms of like asking a stranger if they can, like you were saying, it's different. If you ask a stranger now, they're inundated with images of themselves and their families through social networks. But in the 70s, it was completely different.
It was. I mean, you didn't really have to ask unless you were really up close. They'd see you with a camera around your neck. I mean, I usually had 2 or 3 cameras. And you just sort of hang around for a while till they realized you were there and then forgot you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd slowly start to take a few pictures and you'd start to move in and start to work it a little bit. And they would never give it a second thought. And it's kind of like the fly on the wall thing. It's like hanging around with a hunter, hanging around with Ali. After a while, you disappear. And they no longer hear that click, click, click. And they're really not aware anymore, and they're not mugging the camera, and it's you could do what you wanted. Now it's depends on the situation, but it's sometimes smarter to ask. I mean, I was in New York one day, and I saw a guy on the street, and I really liked what his face, and I said, "Hey, can I take a picture of you just because I like it?" He went, "Yeah, sure." So he stood there, and I did a couple of quick shots, but he's looking at me, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Thanks." And, I let him sort of go back to what he was doing, and I shot 2 or 3 more really quick that I like better because now he's natural, and that's really what I want is people doing what they do, without hamming it up for a photographer. I mean, I do have one shot where Ali's hamming it up, but it wasn't for me. It was, he had such I don't know if twisted is the right word, but he had such a great sense of humor, and the press was always after him. "Ali, what's your secret?" So one day, he takes an envelope from the hotel and he writes on it, and then he runs around the edge of the ring, and the sports writers all sat over in one section, and he holds it up in front of him so they can read it. And I'm right smack in front of him with a wide-angle lens, and it says, "The Secret of Muhammad Ali."
In the envelope.
On the envelope.
Oh, wow. And then what did he do with the envelope?
I don't
Just
know
took
what he
it,
did
threw it
with
somewhere.
He probably threw it away. I mean,
Yeah.
if I was in now mode, I would have said, "Oh, let me have that envelope.
Yeah.
Can you sign it?"
Yeah.
And it'd be worth a fortune now. But, nobody cared then.
Right.
Wow.
Cool, man.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Once you get me started, it's hard to
No,
shut me up.
that's awesome. This is what
That's
it's about.
ideal. Ideal.
Yeah, great. Al, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
we'll
thank you
have
very
all
much.
of your links and all of both the Cozumel Diary, Hunter S. Thompson book, and also Titans, and the whole bevy, so to speak.
Cool.
I mean, there's so much great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Al, thank you
Al
for coming
Satterwhite.
by. Amazing stories about Hunter S. Thompson.
Yep, and Schwarzenegger and Muhammad Ali buying a house.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That was pretty funny.
Brought to you by This Is Not a Pipe, recorded at the Green Street Studios. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.